I'm 27 now, but the night my stepfather tried to erase my future is still loud in my head. Sign it. Graham Whitaker dropped a printed form on the kitchen table like a traffic ticket. The paper slid across the cracked tile toward me, bumping my mug of peppermint tea. He set a ballpoint pen on top. It's a simple withdrawal notice. You send this, Meridian University takes you off their list, and we can all stop pretending you're moving to California. I didn't touch the pen. The acceptance packet lay open beside me, the Meridian crest gleaming in navy and copper. First-gen scholarship. Housing included. Books too. I'd read those lines so many times the words had grooves. Mom hovered near the sink, twisting the dish towel until it looked like a rope. Let's just talk, Graham, she murmured without looking at me. We are talking, he said. Rowan's listening. Rowan. That's me. 18 then. A good student with a car that rattled and a life that felt like a sealed jar. Our town was the kind of place where you learned who you'd be by the 11th grade and stuck with it. I'd worked 3 jobs, aced AP everything, and written an essay that made a stranger in a different time zone believe in me. Meridian University, Santa Aurelia. Ocean air, labs with glass walls, professors who'd actually written the books on their shelves. I could taste it. Graham tapped the form. You're not ready for some coastal fantasy school. You're barely ready to manage a checking account. You'll stay here in Bramble Creek, start full-time at the lumberyard, and pay rent like an adult. It's a full ride, I said. Come, slow. The way you speak to an animal with its hackles up. I'm not taking on debt. The Archer Bly Foundation is covering everything. He smiled, thin, practiced mean. Scholarships end. Reality doesn't. And it's not just about money, it's about values. Your mother needs you. I need you to contribute. No more late nights at that coffee shop, no more study groups. You're under my roof. I stared at the form. The header read Meridian University. Change of enrollment status. Beneath it, a checkbox. I decline my admission for the upcoming academic year. There was a line for a signature and a neat little box for a date, like all it took to cancel a life was ink in today. You called admissions? I asked. He leaned back, laced his fingers behind his head. I did. Told them you'd been misguided. They said a parent or guardian could submit the form. Nice people. Helpful. I said we'd send it tonight. Mom flinched at we. She always flinched. Graham, she's 18. That makes her an adult on paper, he snapped. Not in practice. I folded the acceptance letter along the crease and slipped it into its folder. My hands were steady. My heart wasn't. 18-year-old hearts do that. Vibrate like a hummingbird's, invisible to everyone you're trying to convince. I could feel the edge of the Archer Bly contract through the manila, the embossed seal like a small warm coin against my fingers. My name was on it alone. Graham pushed the pen closer. Sign. I looked at Mom. Her eyes darted from the form to me and back, helpless, apologetic, 100 unsent messages. She wasn't cruel. She was tired. There's a difference, but it doesn't change the outcome. What if I don't? I asked. He laughed, a low, confident sound that said he'd already mapped out every exit and boarded them shut. Then you can start paying market rent tomorrow and cover your own groceries. Utilities too. My house, my rules. I won't subsidize a bad decision. I let the silence stretch until the kitchen clock ticked loud enough to notice. The peppermint steam curled around my face. I thought about the coastal fog I'd only seen in photos, about the way people in Santa Aurelia wore fleece in the evenings even in July. I thought about the computer science building with the glass walls, and how light fell through them like something you could keep. Graham, I said, Meridian didn't talk to you. They can't. I'm the student. He held my gaze and for a flicker he looked surprised. It vanished. They talk to me plenty. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. I picked up the pen. His shoulders eased a fraction. Mom exhaled, relief and guilt tangled. I uncapped it and drew a tiny dot in the corner of the page the size of a freckle. A habit from exams. Proof to myself that I was there, that the paper was real. Then I set the pen down and slid the form back to him. I'm not signing, I said. His jaw flexed. You don't have a choice. I do. My voice didn't shake. That surprised me more than anything. I earned this. The foundation didn't bet on you. They bet on me. And Meridian, they accepted me, not us. Graham's eyes hardened into something colder. He reached for the form, folded it in half, then in half again, precise, deliberate, like he was quartering a map to a place he'd never allow me to go. You live in my house. As long as you do, you follow my rules. Then I won't live in your house, I said. The words came out too fast, like I'd been holding them in my mouth for months and finally let them run. I think part of me said it just to see if it could exist outside my skull. It did. It hung there between us, a line I hadn't realized I'd drawn. He blinked. Where do you think you're going to go? Who's going to take you? Your little friend with the purple hair? The one who drives the van with the bumper stickers? You think you're going to couch surf your way to a degree? Mom whispered, Rowan. I stood. The chair legs screeched against the floor, a sound that never bothered me until that second. I'm going to figure it out. Graham rose, too taller, broader, all presence, the way he'd fill a doorway just enough to make you change your mind about needing what was on the other side. If you walk out without signing, don't come back when it falls apart. I picked up my folder and my keys. My backpack was already by the door. Habit. When you're a kid in a tight house, you learn to keep the essentials ready. At the doorway I paused and looked back at him. You said Meridian talked to you, I said quietly. They didn't. But I did talk to someone. His eyes narrowed. Who? I slipped the spare key to the house off my ring and set it on the table, right on top of the folded form. You'll find out. That wasn't bravado. It wasn't a plan exactly. It was a promise I didn't yet know how to keep. But there was one thing he didn't know. 2 hours before dinner I'd stepped outside behind the garage, called a number from a letter with a copper crest, and told a stranger everything. She'd said 6 words that changed the temperature of the air around me. He has no authority over you. I walked past him, past the wall of family photos where my graduation picture sat slightly crooked, past the smell of lemon cleaner and sawdust that always clung to his clothes. The screen door slapped behind me. The evening was heavy and warm, cicadas grinding the dark like a zipper. Rowan, Mom called softly. It sounded like sorry and stay and I love you all at once. I'll be okay, I said and meant it more than I believed it. I got in my car, put the folder on the passenger seat and turned the key. The engine coughed, then settled. In the reflection of the windshield, the kitchen light flicked off. The porch stayed dark. As I pulled out, my phone buzzed with a new email notification. Subject line: Housing assignment. Meridian University. I didn't open it. Not yet. I drove toward the highway, toward a future that felt equal parts terrifying and mine, and told myself the same sentence on repeat until it sounded like a fact. You didn't get to choose. The highway out of Bramble Creek was a 2-lane ribbon cut through soy fields and low pine woods. Nothing to look at unless you liked watching the horizon refuse to get closer. I kept the windows down, the humid August air pressing in like it was trying to talk me out of leaving. By the time I reached the first gas station with a working bathroom, my phone had lit up with 5 missed calls. All from Mom. I pulled into the far corner of the lot, away from the pumps, and stared at the screen. Every missed call came with a voicemail. Every voicemail came with Graham's voice in the background. I didn't press play. Instead, I scrolled to the email I'd ignored in the driveway. Housing assignment. Meridian University. The words looked clean and official, like they'd been typed on marble. My assigned building was Callahan Hall, room 317. Move-in day, August 26th. There was even a little map attachment with the dorm circled in red like treasure. I let the phone rest on my thigh and took a breath. It felt like the first real breath since I'd said I won't live in your house. The payphone-style ringtone I'd set for unknown numbers broke the moment. I almost let it go to voicemail until I saw the caller ID. Archer Bly Foundation. Hello. My voice cracked on the second syllable. Rowan? This is Camilla Rhodes, a warm, steady alto. The same voice from the letter. I got your message earlier and I wanted to make sure you're all set. You mentioned some pushback from your family. I laughed, short and humorless. Pushback's a word for it. He printed a withdrawal form and told me to sign it. Said he'd already called Meridian to decline for me. Not possible, she said instantly, like she was swatting away a fly. We flagged your account after you called. No one but you can make enrollment changes now. We'll keep it that way. Something inside me unclenched, a knot I'd been pretending wasn't there. Thank you. Really? She hesitated. Rowan, full rides aren't just about tuition. If you need help with moving expenses, housing deposits, even a flight, we can arrange it. We have emergency funds for students in difficult situations. The phrase landed softer than I expected. Not pity, not judgment. Just an open door. I glanced at my gas gauge. A quarter tank. Bramble Creek was a long way from Santa Aurelia, and Callahan Hall might as well have been on the moon without money for the trip. I'll think about it, I said, even though my brain was already saying yes. Do more than think, she said. Email me tonight with what you need and we'll make it happen. When the call ended, I sat there watching a moth slam itself against the inside of my windshield. Bramble Creek had a way of making you feel like that, like you kept hitting the same glass over and over without knowing the way out. I didn't start the car. Not yet. Instead, I opened my contacts and scrolled to a name I hadn't touched in 6 months. Maris Calloway. Purple hair, dented VW van, 2 years older than me, and the first person who'd ever told me that leaving wasn't betrayal, it was survival. I hit call. 3 rings. Rowan. She sounded half surprised, half like she'd been waiting for me to call all along. Maris, I said, how far are you from Bramble Creek right now? Pause. Close enough. Why? Because I think I'm moving to California, I said. And I could use a getaway driver. She laughed, sharp and delighted. Give me 20 minutes. And Rowan, don't pack light. I ended the call and stared down the road, already picturing the van's peeling paint in the rear view. Graham's voice was somewhere on my phone, sealed in those voicemails I wouldn't listen to. But Camilla Rhodes' voice and Maris' laughter were louder. 24 minutes later, the rumble of Maris's old VW van broke the monotony of the gas station lot. It pulled in under the sickly yellow light, coughing exhaust like a chain smoker. The passenger door swung open before she'd even come to a full stop. Get in, future college girl, she grinned, leaning over the seat. Her hair was shorter now, still purple but chopped unevenly like she'd done it with kitchen scissors. I grabbed my folder and backpack, sliding in beside a crate of vinyl records and a laundry basket full of thrift store sweaters. The van smelled like coffee grounds, motor oil, and the faintest trace of lavender incense. You weren't kidding, she said, eyeing the single bag I'd brought. That's it? You're running away to California with half a carry-on? I'm not running away, I said. I'm moving forward. Maris smirked. Sure. Keep telling yourself that. We pulled out onto the highway, her high beams catching the road like a strip of silver ribbon. The countryside blurred into a shadowy smear. So, she said after a while, tell me what happened this time. I told her. About the form, the pen, Graham's smug certainty that my life was his to veto. About the phone call to Camilla Rhodes and her calm, surgical way of cutting through his threats. When I got to the part where I told him I won't live in your house, Maris thumped the steering wheel with the heel of her hand. That's my girl. Did he blow a gasket? He looked like I'd slapped him, I said. But I didn't stick around long enough to see what came next. Good. First rule of escaping Bramble Creek? Never give it time to pull you back in. We stopped for gas at a 24-hour station just past the county line. The air smelled of diesel and wet pavement. As Maris filled the tank, I ducked inside to grab snacks. When I came back out, she was leaning against the van, scrolling through her phone. You're trending, she said, showing me a text thread from a mutual friend. It was a blurry photo of my empty parking spot at Graham's house, captioned, "Guess who finally made a break for it?" The comments were a mix of shock, congratulations, and a few petty jabs from people I'd gone to high school with. I handed her a bag of pretzels. Great. Now I'm a Bramble Creek legend. She tore it open with her teeth. Better a legend than a cautionary tale. Back on the road, the van felt like a bubble. Outside was the darkness, the miles, the version of my life I'd just set on fire. Inside was stale air, crinkling snack bags, and Maris humming along to some scratchy cassette tape. Somewhere between state lines, my phone buzzed. I expected another missed call from Mom. Instead, it was an email from Camilla. Rowan, I've booked you on a direct flight from Masonville Regional to Santa Aurelia, leaving Friday morning. Your housing key will be waiting at the check-in desk. CR. Below that was a single line. We believe in you. Don't stop now. I stared at the screen until the words started to blur. Maris glanced over. Good news. The best, I said. And for the first time that night, I felt the road stretching out in front of me not as an escape but as an arrival. By morning, the messages on my phone had multiplied like weeds. 23 missed calls. 11 new voicemails. All from the same two numbers. Mom's and Gram's. I sat cross-legged in the back of the van, the morning light slanting through the blinds Maris had rigged over the windows. She was inside a diner getting us coffee, leaving me alone with the buzzing rectangle that felt heavier than any textbook I'd ever carried. Against my better judgment, I played the latest voicemail. Rowan. Graham's voice, clipped and cold. You've embarrassed this family enough. If you come home now, we can still undo this stunt. But if you think you're going to walk back in here after pulling something like this, you're wrong. Don't test me. The next one was Mom. Quieter, shaky. Honey, I wish you'd just talk to him. He's upset. We can figure this out together. I deleted them both. Maris slid the van door open, balancing 2 paper cups and a greasy paper bag. Breakfast burritos and terrible coffee. Just like old times. I took mine, the heat seeping into my hands. Graham's calling me like it's his job. Mom too. She unwrapped her burrito with one hand, steering with the other as we merged back onto the highway. That's what people do when their control slips, they scramble. The trick is not giving them a hand to grab onto. An hour later we hit Masonville, the closest thing to a city near Bramble Creek. My flight was 2 days away, and Maris offered to let me crash at her apartment until then. It was a 3rd-floor walk-up with peeling wallpaper and a couch that sagged in the middle, but it smelled like freedom. Burnt toast, paint, and a hint of eucalyptus from the diffuser in the corner. I was halfway through folding my one bag of clothes into neater stacks when my phone buzzed again. This time a text. Oh, it's Mom. He's talking about selling your car. Says it's in his name because he co-signed. Please call me. My stomach dropped. The Corolla wasn't much, but it was mine. The one thing I hadn't thought he could take. Maris leaned against the doorframe, reading over my shoulder. Can he actually do that? I don't know, I admitted. But knowing him, he'll try. Then you'd better make sure he can't, she said, tossing me her car keys. Let's go get it before he gets clever. And just like that, the getaway wasn't over. It had a sequel. One I wasn't sure I was ready for, but couldn't afford to lose. We made the drive back to Bramble Creek in silence, the kind of silence that hums under your skin because you know you're walking straight into someone's territory. Maris parked a block away from Graham's house, the van's engine ticking as it cooled. You sure you want to do this in broad daylight? She asked, drumming her fingers on the steering wheel. Yes, I said, though my hands were already slick with sweat. If we wait until night, he'll think it's a theft. In the middle of the day, it's just me taking what's mine. The Corolla was right where I'd left it, angled in the driveway like it had been waiting for me. From the porch, Graham's work boots were visible just inside the screen door. I crossed the yard, keys in hand, forcing myself not to look toward the windows. The lock clicked, the engine coughed awake, and for one fleeting second I thought I'd made it. Then the porch door slammed open. Rowan. His voice cracked through the air like a whip. What do you think you're doing? I gripped the steering wheel. Leaving. Again. He strode toward the car, face flushed. This is my name on the title. You don't get to. It's our names, I cut in. Joint ownership. Which means I have just as much right to drive it away as you do to keep it here. For a moment, his mouth opened and closed like he was recalculating in real time. You think a piece of paper means you can just take off? You've lost your mind. From behind me, Maris leaned out of the van window, her voice calm but sharp. She hasn't lost anything except maybe a few minutes listening to you talk. I shifted into reverse. Graham stepped closer, his hand brushing the door handle. My pulse jumped, but I didn't flinch. Move, I said. His eyes narrowed. You drive off and you're not welcome back here. Ever. I met his gaze through the glass. That's the point. I backed out, the tires crunching over gravel, his figure shrinking in the mirror until the house was just another shape in the distance. By the time we reached the main road, Maris let out a low whistle. You just burned that bridge so thoroughly it's ash. Good, I said, shifting into third. Now there's no way back. The Corolla rattled like it always did over 60, but for the first time the sound felt like momentum, like proof I was moving toward something bigger than him, bigger than Bramble Creek. Maris followed me in the van as I drove the Corolla back to Masonville. The late summer sun was dropping low, turning the sky into a smear of tangerine and bruised purple. Every mile put more distance between me and Graham's porch, but the knot in my chest stayed tight. Back at her apartment, we parked the cars nose to nose in the narrow lot. Maris tossed me a spare blanket and a pillow from the back of the van. Couch is yours. Don't mind the dip in the middle. It's like sleeping in a hammock without the fun. I laughed, though it came out thin. My phone was face down on the kitchen counter, silent for the first time all day. Either Graham had run out of things to say, or he'd decided silence would rattle me more. Maris popped open a can of cheap ginger beer and sat on the arm of the couch. Tomorrow you've got one day to get everything lined up. Boarding pass, what little stuff you've got, whatever loose ends you care about tying. Loose ends, I echoed. There weren't many. No pets. No plants. Friends who'd already scattered after graduation. And a mother who could never seem to choose between me and her husband without hesitating. Still, I sent her one last text. I'm flying out Friday morning. I'll send my new address once I'm settled. I love you. No typing dots appeared. No reply came. Maris noticed me staring at the screen and nudged my knee. Don't wait for something she might not send. It'll keep you here longer than you want. That night, I lay on the couch with the blanket pulled up to my chin, staring at the glow of the street lamp through the blinds. In less than 48 hours, I'd be breathing ocean air, hearing waves instead of cicadas. And yet, somewhere under the relief, I felt a flicker of grief, not for leaving Bramble Creek, but for the years I'd spent convincing myself I could be happy there. I turned onto my side, the springs in the couch groaning under my weight, and whispered to the empty room, not anymore. The morning before my flight, Masonville Regional Airport felt more like a bus terminal than a gateway to anywhere life-changing. Low ceilings, flickering fluorescent lights, the smell of burnt coffee drifting from a single kiosk. Maris insisted on driving me, blasting some punk playlist from the van's speakers like she was soundtracking an escape scene. She parked illegally at the curb, jumped out, and yanked my one bag from the back. You've got everything? She asked. Everything that matters, I said, patting the folder tucked under my arm. The Archer Bly contract, my acceptance packet, and the printed email from Camilla Rhodes. Proof of the life I was about to step into. At the check-in desk, the clerk slid an envelope across the counter. My name was written in clean, looping pen. Inside was a metal key fob stamped 317. Callahan Hall. Maris leaned against the counter, smirking. Looks like they're expecting you. They are, I said, though my voice shook just enough for her to notice. Outside security, she pulled me into a hug so tight it almost hurt. When you get there, she said, don't look back. Not for a second. Graham's voice, your mom's silence. None of it gets to follow you west. I won't, I promised, though I knew some ghosts didn't care about promises. The flight was boarding when my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You'll regret this. I didn't have to wonder who it was. I deleted it without opening, dropped the phone into my bag, and stepped onto the jet bridge. The hum of the engines grew louder, drowning out the world I was leaving. As I found my seat by the window, the realization hit me. This was it. Every mile from here was one Graham couldn't take back. When the plane lifted off, Masonville shrank beneath the clouds until it was nothing but a blur. My hands loosened their grip on the armrests, and for the first time in years I felt weightless. Santa Aurelia smelled like brine and eucalyptus, a mix so clean it felt illegal after a lifetime of diesel and sawdust. The airport was all glass and sunlight, a mural of sea lions on one wall and a cafe selling something called kelp chips. I clutched my folder and followed the stream of students with duffel bags and parents carrying too many pillows. Outside, a shuttle idled with Meridian housing stenciled on the side. I slid into a seat by the window and watched the coastline unfurl. Pale sand, slate blue water, sailboats like paper triangles. Somewhere in that view was a version of me I'd been writing toward since the first time I'd seen a photo of this campus. Callahan Hall sat on a rise above the quad, its brick warmed to the color of toast. Kites flickered over the lawn. A group of students lugged a mini fridge up the steps, laughing like they'd known each other forever. The air tasted like salt and new pages. Check in? A student worker asked, pointing me toward a line that moved faster than my heartbeat. At the table, a girl with a nose ring and a lanyard flipped through a stack of envelopes. Name. Rowan Whitaker. She found it, smiled, then paused, the smile draining. Oh. Huh. That word, huh, is a trapdoor. What's wrong? I asked. There's a note on your file, she said carefully. It says there was a guardian-initiated withdrawal request this morning. Which doesn't make sense because your account's flagged as student-controlled. She clicked around the way people click when they're hoping a different screen will show a different reality. It's probably a glitch. I just can't issue your key until housing clears the flag. The lobby sounds sharpened, luggage wheels, someone's laugh, a door slamming down the hall. My throat went dry. Morning. He tried again this morning. I pictured Graham with his jaw set, dialing numbers, making demands in that voice he used on sales reps who dared to say no. The student worker looked up, worry creasing her forehead. Don't panic. We'll get it fixed. Can you wait over there? I stepped aside, folder pressed to my ribs like armor, and texted the only person I trusted with the detonator. Camilla, housing says there's a withdrawal flag from a guardian today. They won't give me my key. The typing dots arrived so fast they felt rehearsed. Stay put. I'm calling them. Do not leave the lobby. I didn't. I watched a boy and his dad debate bed placement, a girl hang a string of fairy lights around a door frame, a mom cry and pretend she wasn't. The lobby clock ticked louder than any clock had a right to. 2 minutes. 10. My phone rang. I stepped into an alcove by a vending machine. Rowan. Camilla's voice was still warm, but now it had an edge, steel under velvet. You're cleared in 60 seconds. Someone posing as a guardian submitted a faxed request. We reminded housing that you're an adult, your scholarship is independent, and any third-party request is void on site. They're purging the flag. I swallowed. It was him. It was someone like him, she said. It doesn't matter who. Listen to me. If he calls, if he shows up, if he breathes loudly in your direction, you do not engage. Send it to me. This is what we're here for. Thank you, I said, and the words felt too small. I didn't think he'd reach this far. People like that always test the fence when they realize it's electrified, she said dryly. Good news, our power bill is paid. When I returned to the table, the nose ring girl looked relieved. She slid an envelope toward me, along with a fabric lanyard and a key fob stamped 317. Sorry about that, she said. System's clean now. Welcome to Meridian. Welcome. The word hit something inside my sternum that had been braced for no for years. Callahan's third floor smelled like lemon polish and fresh paint. I found 317, pushed the door open, and stepped into a room flooded with coastal light. 2 beds. 2 desks. A window framing a slice of Pacific that made me forget how to breathe. Hi. A voice bubbled from behind me. I turned to see a girl with a copper pixie cut and a suitcase bigger than my car. She stuck out a hand. I'm Evie. From Flagstaff. You must be Rowan. I called the window side, but you can totally have it if you're a plant person. I blinked, then laughed, a quick, surprised sound. I'm definitely not a plant person. The window's yours. We split the room with the easy choreography of strangers trying not to step on each other's lives. Evie unzipped her suitcase and produced a rainbow of sticky notes. Okay, priorities. Snacks go there, desk lamp goes here, and wow, that view. I set my folder on the desk and ran my fingers over the embossed Archibald seal, a superstition I'd invented somewhere between the jet bridge and the shuttle. Proof. Anchor. Then I tucked it into the top drawer and told myself I could breathe without it. I was testing the desk chair's wobbly leg when my phone buzzed again. A text from a local number I didn't recognize. Welcome to Santa Aurelia. When can we talk about turning this car over? The breath left my lungs like someone had opened a valve. I stared at the message until the words rearranged themselves into something uglier. Turnover. Santa Aurelia. Everything okay? Evie asked, balancing a plant, of course, in her hands. Yeah, I lied automatically, then caught myself. If this was a new life, I didn't have to keep old reflexes. My stepfather's. Persistent. He sent someone my number. Gross, she said with a bite that made me like her instantly. Block. Report. Repeat. I snapped a photo of the message, forwarded it to Camilla with 2 words, new number, then blocked it. The room felt bigger the second it disappeared from my screen. Want to come scout the dining hall? Evie asked, setting the plant on her windowsill and stepping back, satisfied. Or we can hit the bookstore. I hear they have overpriced hoodies that make you feel like you belong. I smiled. Bookstore. Outside, the quad buzzed like a beehive. A student a cappella group was auditioning by the fountain, harmonies curling into the blue. Someone was handing out flyers for a beach cleanup. A guy skateboarded past with a stack of pizza boxes balanced like a magic trick. None of them knew me. None of them cared where I'd come from. The absence of expectation was loud and kind. In the bookstore, I ran my thumb over a Meridian hoodie and pictured myself in it, walking across campus at dusk, hands in the pocket, hair salt-tangled from the wind. It felt like trying on a future and finding out it fit. At the register, the cashier bagged the hoodie and tapped the counter. Student ID? I slid my temporary card across. She scanned it, smiled. Welcome to Meridian, Rowan. There it was again. Welcome. I tucked the bag under my arm and followed Evie back into the light. We were halfway across the quad when my phone rang with a number I now knew by heart. I almost silenced it out of reflex, then answered and put it on speaker before I could change my mind. Rowan. Graham's voice was tight, like he was speaking through clenched teeth. You think you're untouchable now? Cute. I can still make things very, very inconvenient for you. Evie raised an eyebrow. I didn't look at her. You already tried, I said, keeping my tone even. The breeze lifted the edge of the paper bag. Somewhere a gull screamed. And here I am. I'm talking about your car, he said. It's in my driveway and... It's not, I said. You saw me drive it away. A beat. Then colder, you're not as clever as you think. People talk. Numbers get shared. You wouldn't be the first kid to come crawling back when the fantasy runs out. Evie mouthed, hang up, slicing her hand across her throat in a gesture so dramatic it almost made me laugh. You called my university to withdraw me, I said, still calm. You sent someone my number. Both of those are lines you weren't supposed to cross. Here's mine. Don't call me again. Any contact goes through the foundation. You think some charity is going to protect you from consequences? He asked, amused now like he'd found a new game. I think I'm done letting you define what consequences look like, I said and ended the call. For a second the silence rang. Then the campus noise flowed back in. Laughter, skateboard wheels, the fountain's steady hush. Evie exhaled. He's a lot. He's a pattern, I said. One I'm unlearning. We reached the edge of the bluff where the campus tumbled down toward the beach. The ocean stretched out like a promise I could finally cash. I stood there long enough for the wind to make my eyes water and told myself it was just the salt. My phone buzzed one more time, a text from Camilla. Saw the transcript of that call. Nice boundary. Coffee tomorrow. My office, 10 a.m. We'll set you up with campus legal just in case. And then you get to be a student. Just in case. The phrase landed like a parachute I hadn't realized I was wearing. Back in 317, I hung the hoodie on the back of my chair and sat at the desk. I opened my laptop, connected to Meridian Student, and pulled up my class schedule. Algorithms. Intro to Ethics. Oceanography for non-majors. The kind of lineup that made my chest ache with a dumb, earnest joy. I slid the Archer Bly letter from the drawer, smoothed the crease, and tucked it beneath the clear desk blotter where I could see it every time I sat down. Then I placed the key fob on top of it, 317 catching the light like a tiny, tangible proof, and whispered to the empty room, to the ocean, to the version of me who'd sat in a kitchen and refused a pen. I made it. By the second week of classes, Santa Aurelia had already started to feel like a map I could read without thinking. The path from Callahan Hall to the library. The shortcut behind the dining hall where the ocean breeze cut through the heat. The way the sunset poured molten light down the main quad like it had been staged just for us. Every day something new chipped away at the Bramble Creek version of me, the one who calculated every move by how Graham might react. Now my biggest worry was whether I'd finish the reading before the next seminar, or if I'd beat the lunch rush at the burrito counter. Still, part of me stayed braced, waiting for the next hit. It came on a Thursday evening. I was in the library, half buried in a stack of ethics case studies, when my phone buzzed with an email notification. Subject: Vehicle Ownership Inquiry. I opened it. A message from the Santa Aurelia DMV, flagged urgent. Someone had requested transfer of ownership for my Corolla. Attached was a scanned form, my name and his scrawled in mismatched ink. No signature from me. For a split second the old panic flared. Then I forwarded the email to Camilla with the subject: Another try. Handle. Her reply came 3 minutes later. Already on it. That form's invalid without your consent. I've spoken to our legal contact, he won't be trying this again without consequences. Enjoy your evening. And just like that the panic dissolved. Not because the problem was gone, but because I wasn't the only one holding the line anymore. That weekend, Evie dragged me to the campus farmer's market. She bought flowers for our room. I bought a loaf of bread that tasted like it had been baked by the sun itself. We sat on the bluff eating it with our hands, watching surfers cut through the water like black commas. "This place is ridiculous," Evie said through a mouthful. "How is this your first choice for a fresh start?" I laughed. "'Cause it's mine. Every bit of it." Back in our room that night, I slipped the Archer Bly letter from under the desk blotter. The crease was softer now, worn from being handled. I read it again. The congratulations, the promise of opportunity, the signature inked in confident strokes. Then I slid it back, placing my 317-key fob on top. Outside, someone was playing guitar on the quad. The ocean was a low, steady heartbeat beyond the windows. My life was small here and busy and entirely my own. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was running from something. I was walking toward it,